showing you how to do a little more detailed implementation of loops. So I have here, let me pull this code up. I've added a couple more buttons. So you can see here, find the multiples of 2, 3, and 5 between 1 and 100, and then show the total counts of the multiples of 2, 3, and 5. And I have a button here and then 2 more buttons here. So the last time the other videos that you would have watched would all have covered all these. So where you got an introduction to, how to use functions and how to use like if conditions and switch conditions and for loops at a very basic level. So here I'll show you a little bit more so that you can do your lab assignments without having any trouble. So let's first look at this. Find the multiples of 2, 3, and 5 between 1 and 100. So the idea is going to be for me to find everything that is divisible by 2, then find everything that's divisible by 3 and every number that's divisible by 5. Get these individual counts, then add them up. The range I'm going to set myself is between 1 and 100. And then when we click on show answer, it should show me the total count for each and every area. So that is the whole idea. So here is my button. The first order of business is for me to associate an on-click event here. So I want to call this function called count multiples. I don't have the function yet, so I have to write that. So here's my code. So let me write a function in the bottom called count multiples. So a function can take parameters, and that is what makes it reusable. The function can also return a value or multiple values, depending on like if you're sending it as an array or whatever. Normally you can only have one return statement per function, and that means like you return like one value. But if it's an array or something like that, you can return more than one value. Let me write code and show you what is going to happen inside in this function. So here we are going to find the multiples within the given range for 2. Then we have to do the same thing for 3 and 5. Anytime you see yourself repeating a set of instructions, that means there is an opportunity to make it a little more generic. So what if we would pass a number here? First time we'll call it with the number 2, second time with a 3, third time with a 5. So that would make this function generic and reusable to some degree. So within the range 1 to 100, find multiples of passed parameter. Anytime you get a number here, this is called as a parameter, and then the value of this will be sent from this calling place. So I could call it with number 2, which would mean count multiples for 2. Then I could call it again with 3, and then I could call it again with 5. To write a function to just do one thing for just one set of value is not very efficient. So this is there are 3 function calls here. First time I'm calling with 2, second time I'm calling with 3, third time I'm calling with 5. So this makes the function reusable. So instead of doing all these separately, the one function based upon what we pass as the argument here, it can find the parameter, find the multiples for a given range for this particular number. So the num is going to get 2 the first time, 3 the second time, and then 5 the third time it's called. So let's write a for loop. So my starting value is 1, ending value is 100. I want to go one by one. And then what I want to find is I want to find if the number is divisible by the past value. Okay, so if I mod number is 0, so that would tell me this is a multiple, otherwise it's not a multiple. So if we look at the problem statement again, we don't care what number is a multiple, we just want to count it. So instead of displaying this, let's create a counter. And then let's increment that here. Every time you find a match, plus plus. So when you pass 2, it's going to divide each number by 2. And then if there is a remainder, then it's not divisible. If there is no remainder, it's divisible. So first time it will divide by 2 for all the numbers between 1 and 100, and then increment the count. Second time it will go through 1 to 100 with number 3. Third time it will go 1 to 100 by number 5. Okay, so as an example, if I equal to 10 and num equal to 2, 10 is a multiple of 2. So count will be incremented. Okay, that is what is happening here. If the value of I is 10 and num comes as 2, then it's a multiple. If I is 10 and num is 3, it is not a multiple because the remainder is not 0. If I is 10 and num is 5, then it is the remainder is going to be 0, so it is a multiple. So this is how we do it. And then at the end, once we are done with the loop, so this is something tricky thing. You don't want to display the count here because then it will be showing every time the count gets added what the count is. After the loop, everything is processed. Now it should say console.log total multiples for the number is going to be num. This is called as string concatenation, where we add two strings. Is, or you can say equal to, and then you can show the count. So by doing this, you are saying total multiples for 2 is equal to whatever the count is. Total multiples for 3 is equal to, and then total multiples for 5 is equal to. So this makes this function reusable. The only limitation is that it can only check this range. Even that can be changed. You can even pass that. I don't want to add to the complication right now, but you have to understand that you have to write reusable functions, and to be able to write reusable functions, we use these parameters. Okay, num is a name. It's a variable name I chose for the parameter. You can call it anything you want. You can call it X, Y, Z. You can call it anything else you want. Okay, let me open the Google. This is all in Google Chrome. So I'm going to open the Google Toolbar, which is Control plus Shift plus I. That is Control, Shift and I. You have to hold on to them at the same time. Control, Shift, I. So if you go into the sources, up top in the menu, you can see demo.html, demo.js, and demo.css. Let's go to demo.js. You can put a breakpoint here like that. So you can see what is going on inside the function call. Let's first go to console. The console doesn't have anything right now. So let me go and click on the button. Let me put a breakpoint, click on the button. You can see that num is set to 2 because my HTML is calling with number 2 the first time. And then I go through, and then at the end, you click on this blue resume script execution, F8, and then now I can see my count value is 50. So I know my function is working fine. Let me clear the breakpoint and then click on this. Let's go to console now, see what the output is. So this got called with number 2 first, number 3 second, number 5 third. So the values are being passed as the parameter in the HTML. So you can see it here, count multiples 2, count multiples 3, and count multiples 5. So those are being passed there. So that is the method. So this is a function that uses a parameter, but it has no return value in this particular example. So I will write another code and show you how to return a value to the calling function. So that will be the second part. Let's go to the HTML now. So we are done with this. Let's do this. So let's see what the requirement here is. Print a triangle made up of stars, as many rows as I say. And then I want to display the triangle and count the stars that I have inside. So let's create a function called onClick display triangle. And then I'm going to pass the number of rows. So let us say I want 7 rows. So when I say as many rows as I say, if I say 7 rows, it should show 7 rows of triangle. So let's go and see how to do that. Okay, I on purpose changed the function name. This is display triangles, and here I have display triangle. I want to show you when a mistake like this is made, what happens when you pull the code up. So let's refresh the page. Okay, whenever you refresh the page, go to Control-Shift-I, open up the Google Developer Toolbar. So you can also say more tools and then go to Developer Tools. That's okay too. So if you go in here, let me show you. Let me click on display triangle and then go into my developer toolbar. So you can do this way also. Go to this the line in the corner, more tools, developer tools. So nothing happened when I click on display triangle. And if you want to know what happens, you can see here on the top right corner of my developer toolbar, there is an error. If you click on the error, it will tell you what the error is. It says display triangle is not defined. Anytime you see a message like this, the first thing you want to make sure is that you're calling the correct name. So my display triangle, here it is triangles, there it is triangle. That's the difference. And that is why it is saying, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. So just remember to always check for this error in your Google Developer Toolbar. Okay, let's now fix the error. We did this on purpose. Okay, let's think about a triangle. A triangle will look like this. Like that, so on and so forth. So that's how my triangle would look. That's what I'm talking about, at least in this particular example. So the rows are going to be number of lines. So here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. So first line shows me 1 star, second line shows me 2 stars, third is 3, fourth is 4, fifth is 5. So if my input rows is 5, so I have to say number first row will have 1, second row will have 2, third row will have 3, fourth row will have 4, fifth row will have 5. So I have to have 5 rows, and each row will have incrementally the number of stars. So I'm going to because I know something is repeating, I'm going to start with row number 1 and go till the row I got. So in this example it is 5. So 1 to 5. So I have to do this 5 times. So if I print, first time I print 1, second time I print 2. See, again it is repeating. So it is repeating rows and repeating columns. So there is two repeats, which means there are 2 loops. So that is loop within a loop. Let's not use the same variable name. Here let's go to j. Let's think about it. So for the first row, we do it one time, not 5 times. So if rows is I, if rows is 5, I equal to 1, what should be the value of j? J should be equal to, so if number of rows is 5 and my first row is going to be, I am on row number 1, I only want to print one time. If I'm on row number 2, I want to print 2 times. So I should print as many as the number of number of individual lines. So if total number of rows is 5, I is 1, j should be up to 1. If I equal to 2, j will be 1 and j will be 2. That means like I have 2 separate entries. So that is what I am doing here. So I will print 1 star every time this is called. Okay. So let's think about it. I don't want to keep on printing stars one by one. I want to group them. If I want to group them, they have to be saved somewhere here. So let's call, sorry. So that's going to be my variable that will hold the number of stars I need. So depending upon how many ever stars, first time it will be 1 star, second time it will be 2 stars. So this is going to be the loop that represents a single line. Okay, a single line. This is going to represent the total triangle. So every time I make up the row, when I'm ready and I'm all done with the stars, I want to display the rows. I want to display the row only when I'm ready. And then when I start the row, I want this to be reset every time. This should contain nothing, and then I make up this row. It could be like this or this. So that is what I want. Let's test this. Refresh the page and then go and click on display triangle. So that's my triangle. So I sent 7 rows. So it is showing 7 triangles. Seven rows in a triangle. A triangle that is 7 rows long. So that is the part of the functionality that we saw here. Now I said count stars. Okay, so I want to count how many stars are in this triangle. That's what I want to do. So let's create a function for that. So I want to count the stars in a triangle. So I already have this function doing all the work for me. If this function can tell me how many stars are there, then I can just show it here. So for me to be able to do that, this function has to count stars. So let's start counting stars. So this is what I call a star. Each and every one of the asterisks is what I call a star. So I want to count how many stars are there. So every time I add a star, I want to increment the count. Okay. The only drawback with this method right now, this function, it is not returning a value. It is only displaying triangle. It's not returning. So let's make it return the total stars. So if this function calls this function, it will get the value of total stars and then it can display it. So let's do that. Display triangle of rows. So I am not reinventing, I'm not saying 7. I get the 7 here and I pass it over here. Now I got the total. So all I want to do is console.log total stars in my triangle equal to. Please remember that this is different than this in terms of the storage location in a computer's memory. This value is copied to this value, but they are not using the same space. Okay, so you cannot use total stars in this function because it doesn't even know what this is. This function doesn't know what this total stars is. So remember that the scope of a variable is very specific to where you declare it. This function, count stars in triangle, only knows this variable total. And then it knows this variable rows. It does not know any other variable outside of this particular function because this is called as private scope. Okay, if you go into the global area, which is outside of all the functions up top, where we talked about this global variable x, this is available even to this count stars in triangle method because it is defined outside of all the functions. But total stars, this is local to this particular function to display rows, display triangle. Okay, so let's go and test this out, see how this works. Refresh the page. Every time you change the code, click on count stars and then go in here. You can use an alert if you want. I just choose to use a console log. You can use an alert if you want to see the answer right away. That is perfectly fine. You can see the total stars in my triangle is 28. Hope this gives you some information about functions using parameters, functions with return values, how to use loops with a little more manipulation than what we covered in the prior videos. Thank you.